Welcome to Fly Nubian Money, where we help you master your mindset and maximize your money. I'm Laura Lalaki, your host for today. And today we're addressing some common dilemmas and solutions faced by many who are looking to be homeowners. In today's market, a lot of people think they can't do this, but guess what? Yes, you can. So I am joined by some pretty powerful co-queens today, and we're going to help you kind of get your wheels moving and get excited about this and stop listening to the myths that are out there. Today, I'm joined by Madonna Brown, who is a licensed insurance specialist, Athena Gardner, our CPA and women's wealth coach, Minister Connie Spearman, who is an entrepreneur and a real estate investor, and myself, Laura Lalaki, and I am an international real estate agent. Ladies, this is going to be a very great conversation, but I want to throw out some really important stats, especially when it comes to our community and especially women. So, according to NAR, which is the National Association of Realtors, single women are really growing in the market for buying their own homes. They're seeing that they don't have to be married to own their own home. So single women in 2023 accounted for 19% of all home buyers, while single men was only 10%. So let's break it down a little bit more. Black women have shown a significant growth in home ownership. And as of 2023, Black women accounted for 35.4% of Black homeowners. This is really important for us to address because most of the time when people think they're a woman, they may fall into this thing of you have to be married. Two, they may think, I can't buy this as by myself. I don't know what I'm doing. And they just let things get in their head. So I'm actually going to start with Minister Connie because she's a real estate investor and she owns a lot of homes. So Minister Connie, what got you interested in home ownership and how did you get started?
I got started by my deceased husband. We met with him by selling his properties. So that's how we met. And he told me I wanted to find a home. And he said, don't buy a home, buy an investment property where you can live on one side and the other side will pay you rent. So it was income and you could live for free. And that's where I started. I bought my first home 26 years ago and I bought it as a FHA. So I bought an FHA, which you don't have to put nothing down but 3%. And the other thing was I did not have to have a lot of money and my credit score didn't have to be in the 700. I think it was like 600. So it was a good beginning for me was a FHA loan.
So it sounds like you got bit by the real estate bug. I mean, because you don't
Yes, I
just
did.
own your home, you own many more. So
Right.
when you first started, can you tell me maybe one of your major fears that you thought that you just had to like get out of your head to overcome that and go ahead and bite that bullet?
My two friends owned their homes and they were single women. So it was easy for me to see them, to model them. And then I was like, oh, I don't think it's going to be that hard. I asked them many questions and the process that they went through was pretty easy. So I was ready. Actually, I lived in a vacant home. I was homeless at one time. I moved into a vacant home and remodeled it and made it beautiful. So I was already like a homeowner. It was my son's grandparents' home. They were both deceased. It was just sitting there, just decaying. And so that was my first property. I did not purchase it. I lived there, but I remodeled it and I end up selling that. And then it's just been one thing after another. But my first home was a FHA loan. So, and it was a duplex. So I lived on one side and I rented out the other side.
Smart. And I advise people of that all the time. You got to leverage that property. But you're
Yes.
not the only homeowner before. And I'm going to ask you, Madonna, you also have owned and you've actually sold real estate as well. So, what are some of the things that you have helped, especially women, overcome in seeing that home ownership is available to them and not an impossibility?
Well, I guess let me straighten out. I don't own home. I own a couple pieces of land in California at this point. So when I sold and lived in Massachusetts and right here in New York. The first thing you have to do, when we're specifically talking about women, is typically when they come in, they know that, hey, I'm all set, but they're still scared. So what I used to just do is say, what is it? You're here, you've qualified, you can do this. So it's really just sort of pumping the person up to say, you've already gotten halfway where you want to go. Let's go. And again, assuring them that you can afford this. Sometimes at that point, I would run the numbers again to let them know, yes, you can afford this, but just sort of talking them down and saying, listen, you have this pre-approval in your hand. You're good. So that's what it is.
That's right. I agree. And we are going to touch upon some of the process of doing that. But I want to also go over a couple of the major challenges that women actually have when purchasing a home, or anyone. It could be families as well, but we like to talk to our queens out here. The number one issue of challenges with women is economic disparities. Number two is credit and lending. Number three is affordability and housing costs. Number four, systemic racism and bias. We always have to talk about that, especially in our communities, because it is still alive and thriving. And five, lack to access of resources and information. So those are some major challenges that people face when they're ready to purchase a home. And one of the things that we talked about is like money. Where are they going to come up with this? So Athena, you are our CPA, and especially our women's wealth person. So I want to ask you, what
The
do
rule
you
doesn't
see?
tell you what's available.
I'm sorry,
What
my phone just went off.
what do you see in your business? Because I know a lot of the times I advise people to speak to their CPAs. How can they leverage their savings or their 401k or something that they have been saving for toward a home? What is your best advice for them to do that?
Well, when it comes to affordability of a home, and to anybody, man or woman, who is watching right now, if this is something that you really want for yourself, you can have it. That is the first thing I want to say out there, because I know the media, all the messaging we're getting right now, there's a lot of fear about if people are going to be able to afford homes and if they're going to be perpetual renters. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I like to do what's called, like, on the personal finance side of things, a financial assessment. So that will be looking over all your income, your debts, and everything to really come up with what you can reasonably afford at this point in time and what makes sense. Um, Typically, or ideally, you want to have at least 20% down, but sometimes that won't be available or accessible to everyone. You have to do 3.5% with the FHA loan, whatever that means are. The other key barrier I see with people is the down payment, being able to come up money for a down payment, closing costs, things of that nature. And like you said, Lala, there's many different ways to come up with a down payment. Of course, an aggressive savings, or leveraging some of your investments, or borrowing from your 401k is another option as well. So there's many different ways you can skin that cat. You can also get gifts from family members. So if your parents or grandma or anyone, they can gift you money towards the down payment of that home. Another thing that's been coming up often too is, especially for people who are self-employed or do not have W-2 income, but they have income from their business, a lot of mortgage loan officers request income verification letters from CPAs to provide validity around the financial statements. So for you business owners, right, if you don't have a CPA who is doing your business taxes and your books for you, well, what then have to happen is that you will have to find a CPA, kind of like me, who will then, you will have to pay us to review, because we can't just say, oh, here's this letter. We have to review all of those financials to make sure, so our license don't get snatched out here, honey. To make sure that your numbers are valid, so we can produce this letter for you so that the mortgage loan officer can grant you some loans.
And you mentioned something very important, since you are a CPA. Taxes are definitely a part of your whole picture of buying a house. So we've jumped in a little bit. We're giving people a little bit of a taste on what that looks like, home ownership. But there are 4 parts to home ownership that everyone needs to understand, and it's called PITI. That's your principal, insurance, taxes, and interest. So you have 4 different parts to your home ownership. So Athena, you addressed the taxes. So I do want to ask you one more question, because I want to bounce this right off of Madonna when we're finished with your answer. What is the most common thing, or a few of the common things, that people can write off on their taxes for home ownership? Because what I want people to understand is not you're always putting money out and not getting in. But before we do that, see, that's a nice little teaser, y'all. Y'all got a nice little teaser. Before we do that, I want to make sure that you understand you are watching Fly Nubian Money, where we help you master your mindset and maximize your money. Today, we're actually talking about home ownership, how to possibly buy your first time home. But if you love what we're putting down, y'all, you need to make sure that you follow, share, comment, because generational wealth is real, and this is one way to get it. You also can make sure that you find out when we go live and get some goodies every once in a while. If you text Queens, QUEENS, to 87948, and you'll receive notice when we go live, and you'll see all the topics, and you can watch the replays. But you definitely want to make sure that you subscribe to us. So Athena, what are some things that people can leverage with their taxes if they own a home?
Okay, so the beauty of owning a home, because I know a lot of people think renting is the best. I just pay my one little payment. I don't have to worry about maintenance. I don't have to do all these things, right? The beauty with owning a home is that you do get certain tax deductions that reduce your taxable income. And that depending on, tax law is very nuanced. So it's going to be unique to the individual based on your income and all those other things. But what is available is mortgage interest deduction, the ability to deduct the interest paid on your mortgage up to a certain limit. I think as of 2017, it's 375,000 individual and 750 for married. So the government is encouraging us to get married, y'all, because you get higher deductions when you are.
But you still get some of that back, which is good.
Exactly. Property tax deduction, you can deduct up to 10,000, 5,000 if you're, single, for property taxes, along with state and local taxes. There are also credits. Now, on a federal level, we don't have first-time homebuyer credit, but some states and local governments and municipalities will still have those. And even some areas, I remember when I was living in Atlanta at the time, there are programs that will give you money for down payments, or even, what's it called? The one where it's Hometown Heroes, like it gives down payment assistance to people who are like in the medical professions and things like that. Yes. So keep a lookout on those kind of programs that can help you with getting that down payment. Home office deduction. So if you buy a home and you work from home and work out of your business, operate from there, you can deduct the use of your home as well, the square footage of your office based on the square footage of your office and the home, and also any energy efficiency tax credits. Now, a great wealth building strategy, and I'm sure you ladies will discuss this as the realty experts here, is should your property increase in value and have appreciation in value, and you decide to sell it further down the line, you can waive that some of the capital gains tax. So if you're single, you can waive up to $250,000 of that appreciation, or if you're married, up to $500,000. So, and then on the real estate investing side, you can take depreciation, you can really reduce your taxes that way as well. So, the beauty of actually owning a home versus renting is that you do have access to these tax deductions, reducing your income, and also a way to build wealth as well.
So, Madonna, we mentioned four parts of buying a home, and one of them is insurance, and you are an insurance specialist. Can you please explain to us the importance of insurance on your home and having the right type of coverage for your home?
Of course. So, you can't get a home unless, well, you buy your home, but the first thing they're going to insist is that you have mortgage insurance. So, where I would come in, because I always tell people mortgage insurance protects the bank, whereas mortgage protection protects you. So, I would say mortgage protection. I would also say a term living benefits, which is if you ever have a chronic, critical, terminal illness, critical injury, down the road, Alzheimer's. But if ever anything happens to you and you cannot pay that mortgage for whatever reason, why lose your home? Why lose your home? You take advantage of advancing your death benefit. If it's a term with living benefits, you advance it. Your death benefit is advanced tax free. You do not have to pay it back. They do not tell you what to do with that money. And again, you have to have a critical or chronic injury for that, and meaning you can't bring in an income. They advance that money to you. You pay your life. You pay your bills. You feed your family. You feed yourself. So mortgage protection, which again has nothing to do with health, and more term with living benefits, which has everything to do with health. Again, if anything should happen to you health wise, is confirmed by the medical professional who is dealing with you to the insurance company. That check comes out to you up to 90% of your death benefit. So those are the two that I really, really highly suggest that people have, because again, that mortgage insurance only protects the bank.
Wow. That's critical to know the difference. If you're just joining us, you're watching Fly Nubian Money, and you'll find us here every day, Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Today, we're talking about home ownership, and I am joined by my co-queens today, Madonna, Athena, Minister Connie, and myself, Laura Key. But if you don't want to miss us, you want to make sure that you text the word Queens, Queens, because we got lots of queens here, to 87948. Mr. Connie, you got a lot of properties.
Yes,
So I wanted to ask you, how is it that you help to manage that many properties? And do you rent all of them out? And how have you leveraged? This is kind of a two-part question. The ones that you have, because we know you leveraged your duplex. How did you leverage into the next property?
Well, that's so funny that you asked that. Excuse me. I sold off all of my properties. I got tired of renting. There's a lot of problems with renting. So I decided to sell them all off. And right now I'm flipping homes. I buy a home and I flip them. In the last 90 days, I have sold 3 homes that I have flipped. So I just wanted to change my business model on my investment around a little bit. So I enjoy it. I go in, I renovate them, and I sell them. And I'm making more money than off renting. So that's what I like to do right now. I might grow out of that, but after 26 years of renting properties, I had duplexes, fourplexes, I had a personal care home. So, after a while, all the problems, you get tired. So I decided I wanted to get into just flipping homes, making money, and just investing that money.
But you
Connie,
took that first step.
could you expound on the issues that you had with renting? Because I'm sure there's other people who are looking into investing in real estate? Can you expound on the potential issues they may face if they choose to rent
Some
out
of the
their
prob-
investment property?
okay. Some of the problems that I had was people not paying the rent. That's a major problem. Um, there was problems of just not them taking care of the property. You go in, you make everything nice and new, and it's beautiful, and within a couple years, it needs to be done again. So that is money that you're constantly putting out. And after a while, I did not see the return on my investment because you had to replace things. If the sink stops up, they want to call you because they don't have the money to put the money out. I remember one time one of my renters had their grandkids over and they put something down in the drain, and I'm talking about so far down the drain, they had to take the whole top apart to get it out. That costs money. They didn't have the money for it. So that came out of my pocket. But I told them because that was something that their grandchildren did to cause the problem with the property that they had to pay me back. So I charged them payments in little small increments, but they did pay me back. There's a lot of problems on that. Not taking care of it, just trashing your place. After a while, you're just like, well, I could do something else in the investment. Now, all people's not bad. My sister and I had a pastor that lived in one of my duplexes, never no problems. Anything that was under $100, they took care of. Anything over $100, I took care of. So it kind of balance out. And some people really like their places and really take care of it. And most people, they don't care. It's a rental.
Mindset. Mindset. There
Mindset,
is a
that's good.
huge mindset between renting and owning. And when you own your own property, you tend to take more care
Yes.
of it. So you're
Yes.
like confirming that.
Yes.
So ladies, this is really great information, and I think that a lot of people, one of the things we talked about is that is a challenge for people is lack of resources and information about buying a home, and this is where I absolutely love what I do. I kid you not. I love being able to teach people how to buy a home. So I have been teaching home ownership since 2006. And so I teach them from day one what you're going to do, how to you determine your budget when before you even think that you're ready to buy, how to consider where you want to buy. And my first thing that I always like to tell people is to get educated.
Yes.
There are so many programs out there right now that are free. I help teach at a first time home nonprofit, and they get to come to my class. It's an 8-hour class. We go through everything. We have a lender come in and go through everything. We talk about home inspection. We talk about insurance. We talk about everything. And at the end of that class, they get a certificate. And that certificate can go to their down payment because they have shown how they've learned to become a homeowner. So the lack of resources frustrates me when it's so easy for you to even just get online and just Google first time home ownership classes. You can take them in person or you can take them online very easily. Heck, I've created my own for people so that if they don't have time for that, I've got it for them. But it sounds like to me, all of us here know the importance of education when it comes to buying homes. So before we move on, I want to make sure that you know who you're watching. You are watching Fly Nubian Money, and you can find us here Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We discuss important information to help you maximize your money and master your mindset. And today I'm here with my co-queens, Madonna, Athena, and Minister Connie. And we are talking about home ownership. And it is possible. There's so much news out here saying that you cannot own and you have too many challenges to face. when I know all four of us here know that it is possible for you. All you have to do is get out of your head and start your education on what you want to do and how to do it. So, Minister Connie, I'm going to address you one more time.
Okay, I have something to say on that too.
Sure.
The last home that we sold in April, we did seller's assist. So a lot of people's asking for seller's assist. I'm like, okay. So we did do seller's assist, and it was 6% that we did on that.
And everything is absolute negotiable. And you did
Right.
6% on it. That's a great rate to do that.
Mhm.
But I want to also touch back on your duplex. When you purchased your duplex, your very first property, did you live in one side and rent to someone you didn't know? Or did you rent to someone in the community and became a landlord?
No, the person that, when I bought the property, she was already there 15 years.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
So
So
she was
you
a
bought
long
it
time
that way.
renter. Yes. So when I moved there, I was like the new person in the duplex. So I lived on one side and she lived on the other, and she was there for 15 years, and she was a good renter.
Wow. Wow. And well, she'd been there for 15 years. A lot of people in those situations, so people shouldn't be afraid of that.
Right.
Is if somebody has been there a long time, they don't tend to want to move at all.
No.
So you had a good tenant.
A very good tenant.
Athena, from your perspective, we've talked about how people can leverage their money for down payments. But what if someone is coming to you? Do you ever consult with people on how they can save and what they can put their money best toward to get more money to leverage for down payment on their homes?
Yes. What I will say is this: money and being good with money, you do not need to have a fancy finance and accounting degree like I do. A lot of people, even in our industry, have their own hangups around money. Money is more so a mindset thing and a habit thing, right? It's mostly a mindset thing and a habit thing. So even what I first do when I have on the personal finance side of things, when I have clients, is that I make them sign up for Monarch Money, which is a great budgeting and wealth management app. And we do a preliminary budget. So we review their past few bank statements to get a real understanding of what their spending is like, what categories are they spending. And reviewing that is so important because we often overestimate what things we're spending on, one. Two, it's also a reflection of what you value. If someone values fitness, I'm going to see gym expenses and nutritionists and, Whole Foods on their bank statements. So what I do is we do that. And then I don't create a super, super strict budget because that's what some people do. They're like, oh, I'm not going to spend anything. And then you're going to be frustrated and you're going to hate it. And then you're just not going to want to do it at all, which is a big mistake most people make. Then I try to get them to make financial goals based off of what is really important to them and have some kind of emotional attachment. Your emotions are going to be very important as far as you gaining the discipline to actually make these changes. So we discuss that. So then I discuss, okay, what is the most important things to you? Let's keep those in there. And then find the areas that we can save and then put that towards towards your, down payment. So if you make like $70,000 a year, you can give yourself an immediate boost, an immediate personal raise by just cutting down 10% off your budget. That's $7,000. When you have that mindset around it, and certain people struggle with certain things. I'll even share my personal things. The two things that I really have to like rein in is food.
Yeah. I can eat out a lot.
Yeah. I had to like my Uber Eats. I was like, what? Like, what? But you know what I did? There's this company called like Ideal Nutrition that is like really they pre-cook things, and because I'm a busy working woman, I wish I was under the shade eating grapes, but that's not reality right now. I go and I pick that up, and that's significantly, it's healthy, it's portioned, and it takes out the cooking guesswork, and I'm spending less. Like Uber Eats is like $30-$40 each order. And then I love shopping. I'm like a little glamour puss, like I'm a little glam girl, make them all that stuff. And I was like, girl, you could be like putting this in like an index fund right now and be banking. So I had to really like cut that in half so I can have. But basically, I do to myself what I do for my clients, which is keep some of the things you love. Let's find some solutions to some of the things. And then let's put this towards what's going to make you happy.
That's really important because, I always tell people the first thing you want to check is your Starbucks money. How much are you spending at Starbucks? Because that might be your down payment. Because it's very true. It's so very true. So Madonna, once you have your home, I like to let people think ahead. Once they get so focused on purchasing the home and yes, getting everything that they need to. But I also know that it's also very important for people to reevaluate their insurance as their values go up. Can you please explain to me and maybe give a time frame when people should reevaluate their insurance to make sure that they're being covered properly?
If there have been no significant changes in your life, obviously that house is a time to reevaluate. But if there's been no significant changes, definitely yearly. But if ever you have a baby, if ever you lose a child, if ever you divorce, if ever you adopt, if ever there's any kind of some kind of influx of money coming in, some kind of flow of money going out. So if ever there are any kind of big changes of in or out in your life, obviously divorce or whatever, every time you have to do this. I did a series a couple weeks ago on women divorcing. And so I talked about the first thing you always have to do is who's on your beneficiary list if you have that spouse on there. So again, if everything is steady Eddie, yearly. But the second birth, death, divorce, large influx of money, exflux of money, lose a job, get a new job with a higher income, those are times when you must review because things have changed and you can possibly help save yourself taxes by making those adjustments. So yearly, unless things have changed, and then immediately.
That's really great information because I know that there have been people, I've heard some nightmare stories about people who did not do that. And if something should happen to their home, they didn't have enough money to rebuild or to recoup their information. One of the things that we talked about when we first started today, and I highly suggest if you've missed anything that you please go back and rewatch this. Matter of fact, I want to make sure that you know who you're listening to because you have some great information here for you to get started on, even if you're just thinking of home ownership, how you can leverage this towards your generational wealth. You are watching Fly Nubian Money, and we help you master your mindset and maximize your money. We're here Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. I always want to say Pacific because I'm all over the place, Eastern Standard Time. So you can calculate wherever you are. I am joined by some awesome queens today, Madonna, Athena, Minister Connie, and myself. We are talking about home ownership, and you never want to miss any of our episodes. We talk about some really key information. So you want to make sure you text the word Queens, QUEENS, to 87948 so that you'll receive notice when we go live and any other things that we have for you. Sometimes you get special little gifts when you text that. So make sure that you like and subscribe and text that number. So one of the things that we talked about when we first came on is some major challenges for women purchasing a home or for anyone buying a home, but especially in our communities. And one of the things is affordability and housing costs. And the first thing people think of is usually single family homes. And there is a difference between single family and multifamily. A multifamily can be purchased up to 4 units under an FHA loan, which is your first time. Usually first time home buyers do an FHA loan because the down payment is 3.5%. But you can buy up to 4 units with that. So you want to talk about affordability. Well, you're living in one, but you can rent out the other 3. And that also can leverage the loan that you're taking out, because they'll take into account how much rent you are getting in. So in essence, you could be living pretty much zero with your tenants paying the mortgage on that property. That is an important thing to understand, that when you're purchasing a home, it doesn't mean you're just buying a single family home. You can buy a single family, a triplex, a duplex. And also, guys, if you're thinking, I can't deal with the house, I can't deal with the grass and you could buy condos and townhomes. There is a wealth of opportunity in real estate that can fit your needs. So don't think that you're just thinking inside the box. Start thinking outside the box, because just as Minister Connie purchased her first property, which is a duplex, that's 2. And you heard her say she purchased with an FHA. So, Minister Connie, when you purchased with that FHA, how long did you own that property? Do you still own that property? And how long did you hold it if you sold it?
I held that property for probably 10 years. I lived in it 4 years. Got married to the guy that sold me the property, and we bought another home. But I also had bought a fourplex, my next property, and that had 2. I put my business in there. So I had my businesses on the first floor of each side, and then I rented out the apartments on each other side. So I was getting in 4 incomes off of the fourplex. So it was great. And how I bought that, the owner, they had a leaky roof. The roof was leaking, and there was no way that a bank was going to touch that. There was some other things. So they owned it. It was generational passed down. So that family had owned that building for like 3 generations. So when I asked them, I said, well, I can't get a bank loan. My inspector, I always try to get the properties inspected, especially if it's a large property like that, a fourplex. He said, you got leverage. Go in and tell them that the bank is not going to touch it to finance this for you. And that's what they did. So I put down a larger down payment, maybe about $15,000, and I made monthly payments to them. Now, once I was able to get the roof repaired, I was able to go to the bank and ask them for a mortgage on that property. So
okay, so you leveraged that.
I leveraged that.
So are you guys picking up what we put down? You see how we are leveraging a property to get into another property? And I want to bust that myth that just because you have a dream in your head of maybe a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, maybe 5-bedroom, 3-bath, depending on where you live, because in LA, that's tough. You can leverage something to get to that dream. So maybe you can't afford that 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house yet, but you can afford a 2-bedroom, 1-bath condo for a little while and make that money work for you, because you're no longer paying a landlord where that money goes out the window. You're paying yourself and leveraging that money to leverage into your 3-bedroom, 2 home. So I want to take this opportunity to also tell you that there are so many programs out here. Not only are there programs, there are different types of loans. So let's take a pause and really think about what you can put into your brain to help you get to that first step. First, you can check your local resources for local down payment assistance programs. In Los Angeles, there is many programs in different cities. So one thing you can think about is maybe you live in Atlanta, Georgia, right? and you type in Atlanta, Georgia, down payment programs. Well, they may have one, but what about your local subsidy, like your suburban? Some of the suburban areas have their own programs where you can buy in that area. So you can get really niche with these programs. Some of my absolute favorite ones that we do in Los Angeles is the government assisted one. So if you take the FHA classes, they'll help launch you into the down payment assistance programs. They'll help you pay that. There is a program called NACA, and that is usually nationwide. You want to look into that, but you have to follow their guidelines, which are very strict, and it does take a long time to kind of get through the program. But what does it matter how long you have to do to get to your goal? If it means it's going to take you a year or two to do it, I say do it anyway. Put your foot out there and start. And there's also many other ways that you can get around this by making sure that you speak to your local lenders as well. And there are different programs within loans. So FHA loans, conventional loans. You can do USDA. Most people think agricultural when they think USDA loans, but that's not necessarily the truth. You don't have to buy cows and chickens to go and get a USDA loan. There are loans for veterans that have no down payment at all, and they can use their benefits for that, and so many other things. So as you can see, this is a really big topic. We are touching on a lot of great information. You are currently watching the Fly Nubian Money channel, where we help you master your mindset and maximize your money. We are here Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you don't want to miss anything that we have, first we say you need to like, subscribe, and share, and comment, because we may have some answers for the questions that you have today. But to make sure that you never miss an episode, you want to make sure that you text Queens, QUEENS, to 87948 so that you'll get notice on when we live, and you also can always go back and watch the replay. So I don't want to take over the whole conversation, because I know that I deal with this every single day. But let's talk a little bit about money and credit. Now, Athena, you have already instructed us on how we can put some things aside for money. One thing I do want to talk to you about is 401k. Can 401k be used toward a home?
Yes, so a 401k can be used towards a home because there are certain exemptions that will allow you without penalty to pull money from your 401k, and first-time home ownership falls under one of those exemptions. Now, typically, we don't advise to take money out of your 401k because that is going to impact the money that you can have in the future. However, if it is for something like a home, and a home is going to be an investment for you, you're going to have appreciation that you gain from that home anyway, then under those circumstances, then yes, you can take out money from your 401k to afford a home. Another thing I want to keep in mind, because sometimes a big issue that we have in this country is being house poor, is trying to flex, is trying to keep up with the Joneses. Me as a single woman, I was like, actually, this is supposed to be my starter home. I was like, oh, I'm going to be here for 2-3 years and I'm going to get married, la, la, la. That did not happen. However, I am so glad I bought a home versus to speak to the single woman thing that we were talking about earlier. I had friends who didn't, because they were waiting on some guy, or they were waiting for them to get married. And then I live in Florida, so the prices just, went way, way up, especially post-pandemic. So I just want to say that you can find something that you can afford on your own by yourself. For people who are afraid, I find that, especially when it comes to women, since I'm a women's wealth coach, we are afraid to do it on our own. And we have also been instructed to or have these visions of doing it with someone else. But I think a lot of women are waking up to the fact that if you're waiting on a man to do certain things, you might be a skeleton. So I think that's why the statistics are showing that single women are buying at twice the rate of single men, because women value security. And I think we're waking up to realize we can't really wait. However, when it comes to affordability of a home and credit and things of that nature, think of 20-30-3 rule. So ideally 20%, but I know that's kind of rough for people to do. But make sure that the home is less than 30% of your gross income, and the cost is less than 3% of what you take home every monthly, that payment, because that is going to keep you from feeling the stress and burden of trying to keep up with those payments. And financial stress definitely affects us more into our male counterparts just because of our wiring and our hormones and stress and cortisol. So I want to also throw that out there.
Unmute myself. I got all excited about everything that you said. I started talking.
Also, I wanted to show something. Hold on 1 second. We're talking about credit.
Yes.
So for those of you who have might need to get a little hookup on the credit, I recommend this book by Carolyn Warren, How to Repair Your Credit Like the Pros. It goes through all kinds of credit scenarios, and she also gives sample letters for you to send to help repair some of your credit. I think it's around $13-15 on Amazon. Get this book.
Which really segues into this next segment that we are going to address. A lot of people are very curious about interest rates as well as credit. And I do want to make sure that we address that before we end for the day. Credit should never, ever hold you back. This is what I always tell my people. Most of the people come to me are afraid to even look at their credit. And this is my advice to you. Don't let that scare you. For one, I call that your starting point. You may not be where you want to be, but until we know where your starting point is, we can't get to the goal line. I do know there are a lot of lenders out there that will allow you to purchase with a 500 credit score. Do I advise that? I do not. And it's okay if it's all right for your financial wheelhouse, but you're going to be paying extra for so many other things when your credit score is lower. So I completely advise you to have at least a 620 so that you can have a better opportunity for interest rates, because the lower you are on your credit, the higher your interest rate is, because now you're being considered a high risk loan. So a good number to go after is 620. And anything higher than that is definitely a bonus. But right now we know that interest rates are kind of crazy. Like right now, as of this morning, when I checked, because they fluctuate all day. So don't just ask anybody what is the current interest rate, because that could change like that. But the current interest rates for home ownership right now just fell below to 7 again. They were up to 8. But you have to remember that we are still working within a great construct of interest rates when many years ago our parents were paying 20, 21, even 18. We are still in the single digits. And home ownership also pays you back. And there are ways to get around this interest rate issue. One, we want to make sure you have a better credit score. 2, talk to your lender about maybe refinancing 6 months down the road, because now you can leverage your good payments toward your house, toward refinancing and lowering your rates when rates get low. A good lender will do that for you. So don't let the myth of interest rates and credit scores stop you from starting the process. Remember what I said, starting line, you get to the goal. So Minister Connie, once again, I'm going to touch on you because you started with a low amount. You paid how much for your first property?
The interest rate, I can't even remember. It's been so long ago. That's been 26 years ago. So
Right?
I really can't remember what it was. But I'm thinking about 8% at that time. But now when I purchase investment properties, I use my own money. I use my retirement, which is my investment retirement. So I use my retirement funds for my investments because you can't go to a bank. I always use other people's money. So when I use my own, I pay myself an interest rate on that money also. So when I pull it out, I have a Roth IRA that you can
Mhm.
use it however you want to. So that's how I buy my properties. And I have had investors that gave me money through a loan, and you pay them a origination fee, and you pay them monthly a fee on that. And most of them are charging about 10% right now. So that right there that's about average now because it's usually the prime rate plus 2 or 3% for investors to lend you money. But when you're waiting to sell a house, which the market has been very good lately, but when you're waiting to sell a house, my first flip didn't go very well. We had the house for 7 months because we went through 3 contractors. It was awful. So we really did not make any money off of my first flip. So I kind of backed away from it. The only ones that made money, and then I don't know how they talked us into seller's assist. We did that. So I think I walked away with $500. That was a bad investment.
But you learned some.
I learned a whole lot. Yes, I have.
You have to have the learning process, right?
Yes, yes.
Do you remember how much you paid for your first property?
The first flip I did, we paid $35,000 for it. It was a foreclosure. I
There
love
you
buying foreclosures.
see, I'm
Yes,
telling you, we're all launching into some really good information.
right.
Uh, Madonna, I am going to have another question for you, but then I'm also going to explain some of the programs that are out here on how you can find affordable houses. But before we do that, I'm going to put you on that little cliffhanger and tell you who you're talking to today. You are on Fly Nubian Money, where we help you master your mindset and maximize your money. I am Laura Lalaki. I am joined by some wonderful queens who is spitting some serious knowledge for you, Madonna, Athena, Minister Connie, and we are all here helping you to know that it is possible for you to be a homeowner. All you got to do is put your mind to it and step your foot out there and get some education. And that is what we are actually doing. You can find some really great topics with us every day, Monday through Friday on Fly Nubian Money. And we're here every day at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You don't want to miss it. You do not want to miss anything that we talk about because it's definitely going to help you get to the next level with your money. And we have some key information for you as well. So you want to make sure that you text the word Queens, QUEENS, to 87948 so that you'll be notified when we go live. And you also sometimes get some goodies when you text that, and it'll help you definitely grow your money. So I have a really tough question for you, Madonna, because this is some of the things that I am seeing out here, and I want people to understand. We are talking about real estate in general, but in places like Florida, New York, Los Angeles, California, we have Texas. There are a lot of Mother Nature issues, and especially dealing with floods and hurricanes and things of that nature. And I'm seeing that some people are struggling in those states. What are some key questions in those areas, if you have any general guidance for that people can ask for in those high risk states?
Well, in some states like Florida, there are some parts, if not the whole state, and if someone is in Florida on the panel, you can let me know, but you can't even get insurance anymore on properties. So you're going to have to decide what you can or cannot manage. In California, earthquake state. Do you have earthquake insurance? If you don't have earthquake insurance, how are you going to possibly repair that property? Now there are, it's totally slipped my mind what they're called, but they're not called reinforcers, but they are, you have companies that will help solidify that house. They go up underground and they really try to strengthen the property. So you really have to think about what you can afford to possibly lose. What can you do to try to get that property back into livable condition, should a natural disaster happen, and know where you're buying and what is covered and what is not? Because even in California, there's some places due to floods, or not just California, but in some states due to floods in certain areas. And I'm sorry, one more thing you need to know. Sometimes there are freak floods in areas. You need to ask if that area has ever flooded, because you may be buying something and you're happy as a lark, but then 3 months down the road, here comes a flash flood. So you have to be on your P's and Q's. You have, Athena, I see that you, you have to be on your P's and Q's. So you have to know where you're buying and what the risks are. And you have to ask, because sometimes people will leave out vital information.
Exactly. Now, I promised you that I would tell you about some special programs that may help you, not just down payment assistance, but to really look at what you can afford and possibly, conquer the affordability. Number one, there is a program called the Good Neighbor Next Door program. I love this program. It is for firefighters, teachers, EMTs, and police officers. If you are in one of those professions, the government sets aside a certain percentage of homes. You may not always see them. Sometimes they're rare, especially in big cities. But when one comes up, once you're pre-approved for a loan, which we didn't talk about today, but stay tuned because you want to make sure you follow us. I'm sure we'll touch on that on a future show. That if you're pre-approved and that house is set for $200,000, you can put in a bid for that. And it's a lottery system. They pull a name out from somebody who's qualified, and you get that home for whatever they advertise it for. But here's the kicker. You stay in it for 3 years and you get it for 50% off. So if you're in one of those professions and you are a first-time home buyer, there is a program for you, just for you. Now, there are limitations to that, but I always tell people about that because people don't know. Number two, there's also a lot of HUD homes available. HUD homes are foreclosures that are taken back from home ownership, from using FHA loans. Okay, because FHA loans are government-backed loans, they take them back and then they sell them back to first-time home ownership. They also allow investors, but not till after they went through the process of home ownership first. Okay, so that's another great resource to look at. Foreclosures are also a good deal. However, I will say not as much as they used to be, because banks are pretty much really trying to get as much as they can, but you still can get a good deal on those as well. And they're called REO, real estate owned, bank owned homes. So look for that keyword as well. There are tax lien homes in many states where you can buy a home just for the amount of money that someone couldn't pay on their taxes. That's another nuance that you can learn about. But these are all places where you can start your dream of home ownership. Can you tell we're all passionate about that? And the reason we're passionate about that is because this sets you up for generational wealth. Not only for you, but your children, your grandparents, and your parents. Maybe they didn't have a home, but now you can help them realize the dream as well. This is such an important topic to our community. So we're going to wind it down for today, but I'm going to throw it to my co-queens to give us their final thoughts. But before I do that, I want to make sure that you understand who you're watching. You're watching Fly Nubian Money, where we help you master your mindset and maximize your money. And we're here Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. Can you tell I'm in California? Eastern time. And you want to make sure that you text the word Queens, Queens, to 87948 so that you never miss a show. And I'm going to throw it to you first, Minister Connie. You got this buying a home down pat. What are your final thoughts? And please tell us where we can find you.
Yes, you can find me at ConnieSpearman.com. And I also have a podcast every week called Hear and Heal. And we pretty much do it on Tuesdays or Thursdays. So that's how you can find me. But just don't be afraid. Set up a budget, be a strategist, go out, ask many questions to see how you will be able to buy the property. FHA, home, maybe the owner owns the home. So there's so many different things out there. Just don't be afraid. Just go after it.
And how about you, Madonna? Give us your final thoughts and where can we find you?
Always be knowledgeable about what you're doing, making sure that you're able to afford it. You don't want to get in and then a year later get out. I can be reached on Instagram at I am Madonna B. Calendly.com/Madonna Brown, and email me at madonnabfinancial@gmail.com.
Thank you. And Athena, can you give us your final thoughts and also where can we find you, Queen?
All right. So, for all you goddesses that watch our lovely Fly Nubian Money channel, if you are interested in increasing your wealth through home ownership and other means, you can find me at wewealthwomen.com. I actually just released the Goddess Guide to Money. We have a real estate section as well. Check that out. And last but not least is if ownership is something that you desire for yourself, there's a million ways to skin a cat. We just discussed some. If you want that desire, focus on that desire and let's formulate a plan to get you there. You do not need to walk in fear. You are only fearful because you lack knowledge and understanding. But once you know, the fear dissipates and you will be confident in your decision and you will be on one step further in creating the generational wealth that you deserve.
I absolutely love it. I have been so blessed today by my queens here with me. I just love every last one of you. And I love that we love to educate people. So my final thoughts for today are just very simple. Get educated, do your research, and don't let certain things stop you from your dream of home ownership. A closed mouth never gets fed. So make sure you open your mouth and ask the questions so that you can realize your dream. Then take action. Don't just dream about it, be about it. And I am Laura Lala Key. I'm also known as the Realty Goddess. And you can find me at bit.ly/Laura Key Info. I made it easy for you. But as a collective, we are here with Fly Nubian Money. We greatly appreciate your viewership. We are so grateful for your comments, your thought, and your shares. We want to make sure that you continue to follow us because we are here Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget, you need to just do something very simple. Get your little personal assistant out because we're getting ready to tell you what you need to do to make sure that you stay in contact with us. And that is to text Queens, Queens, to 87948. I wish you nothing. We wish you nothing but love and growth and prosperity. Thank you for joining us today. Have a blessed day. Bye.